it's really important to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. And I think that that's also important as we talk about things like Black History Month and sort of, really understanding the path that one has taken to get to where they are today. And everyone's path is different. And I think it's very easy for us to really project what our path has been onto other people.
Good leaders for me have always had a good sense of self. And they've always had a platform where they're leading from behind, where they're encouraging their subordinates to be better. So they're preparing them for the next step.
I think now when you work at a media company, almost especially as a person of color, the expectation is for you to be your authentic self and provide a line into culture and provide a line into pop culture. So if you are even like remotely watering yourself down in your place of work, you are absolutely doing yourself a disservice in 2020 working in media.
Like the question, like do you come into work like it's like, who else would you come into work as? Like how else do you come in? You like, if you're not gonna be yourself. And I do think that like there is a cost to that though. And that cost is different in different work environments. I think, it's important that you acknowledge in your mind, okay, I made this decision, I'm gonna wear a beard, I wear sneakers every day, I talk however I feel like talking, like I don't try to code switch at all. And I know that means that like I have to always have my stuff on point, like it has to be excellent all the time.
And I feel like I've strengthened my craft to this point by having conversations, not exclusively at work, but outside of the office. I mean, some of the strongest, I argue almost all of the strongest connections I made to this point have not happened between the hours of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They happen on an airplane, they happen on the subway.
But I also think that, keeping the concept of lifting as you climb at the forefront, like as you, elevate yourself within your career, always look back and see who you can lend a hand to and who you can help promote within the industry and however you can.
But when you find yourself in an environment where it's extremely diverse, and now it's just kind of like an even playing field, so to speak, and it's really just about the work, and you hadn't really coached yourself through how to compete in that setting, I think as a person of color in a position of leadership and bringing people up in those senses, it's important to recognize that strain that a lot of young people of color are going through and say like, hey, while I can give you this instruction on the work, we need to also talk about how half of your day is probably spent being emotionally drained, trying to like find your footing.
I think the best leaders have gratitude. They show you how much you're appreciated, what your role really how it plays into the bigger picture of what we do for our clients. And being that erasure is such a fixture for Black professionals and professionals from underrepresented communities broadly, it's really important to tell us and give us the credit that we deserve. But moving beyond just gratitude, I think that it's really important to advocate for us as well, to bring us and vouch for us in those conversations that we're not privy to. So I think that really goes a long way with leadership.
When I think about what it means to be a Black leader, like there's this sort of extra burden that you are carrying around sometimes that sometimes people just really aren't, aware of. And so we're constantly thinking about, how we show up and, how we appear. And just sometimes when we ask our other counterparts, like they don't have that same sort of weight on them. And so I just think that's something that's a little bit different about the experience of being, a Black leader.
What I've always tried to do in positions of leadership is practice falling on my sword. If anybody makes a mistake, that's my fault. If it works, that was on them. They did that. I have more political capital to be able to eat a mistake than a 23-year-old Drake who wants to come in and do some new things, or somebody else who has a really good idea that we should try. And I think you learn a lot more from trying these things and seeing what kind of agency we could be.
But I will tell you the cure for that, however you define that feeling, whether it's feeling like an imposter or feeling like you're kind of pulling the wool over the eyes of everyone and one day they'll all find you out. Regardless of how you feel, the cure for it is preparation. It is like going into every single meeting more prepared than everybody else that's gonna be in that meeting, and as prepared as you possibly can be. That is the surefire cure to any time you're feeling like I'm not supposed to be here.
My younger self, I would tell her, become financially literate ASAP. Like, ASAP. And that will dictate all the decisions that you make, from what you prioritize as a win at work, where you decide to work, the goals that you set at the top of every year, how you become validated, the gold star you're looking for someone, the pat on the back you're looking for. It will all be different if you understand how money works.
Creating these safe spaces and really giving, sometimes sacrificing your own growth at times necessary to make sure your team is good. So how do you guys incentivize leadership, people who are managing other people who are managing teams, to do the due diligence and do what's right by their team, to help them grow and ultimately surpass them? Because to me, a great manager is someone who has team members who promote past them and go on to do amazing things. So I think the best mentorship relationships are organic and they feel natural. But how can you create spaces, and this feeds into another one, where people are talking to each other here?
You know, you have to be really intentional, you know, because from my perspective, I mean, how hard is it to like find a black person in PR and hire them, right? Like, how hard is it to find someone who's Latino? Like, it's really not that hard. Like, they're here. So I think sometimes we're making it a much more complicated situation that it needs to be, because they're here. I mean, I know them. I've worked with them. Like, I have them on speed dial. They're here. I refer them all the time. So I think being able to step outside your comfort zone and also be open to different experiences. So if someone has maybe a non-traditional background but can still do the work, I think that's also super important too.
Diversity is a marathon, and you have to treat it that way. You also have to treat it like a business goal, right? Like, you treat all these other, like if revenue was down in one area of the business for like 25 straight quarters, what would you do? Like, you'd say, somebody put together a plan, let's figure out how we're gonna solve this. I think people wish for diverse companies, but they don't plan for them. And so, like, you have to stop wishing for them and actually put down on paper, this is what we're trying to accomplish from a diversity standpoint, because you wouldn't let any other area of your business lag for as long as diversity is lagged in so many different companies, if it really was integral to the bottom line, if you really believed that it was integral to your bottom line.